Good morning, everybody. Tara here with the Wifey Wake Up No Makeup podcast. And we have another 15 minutes or so of marriage tips, even dating tips, which is today's topic, on how to be that wonderful wifey that you want to be, or continuing that. I'll tell you, it took me 20 some years to figure out all this stuff that I'm sharing with you. And thanks to my husband, whose loving patience carried us through. He did not give up on me learning a number of these things. And it's not about, I think about hearing that. What would it sound like if I was hearing that? It sounds like, wow, your husband programmed you. No, he shared with me what he actually likes. And I think all of us as human beings, especially in this day and age, are okay with that. Being able to say, I like this, I don't like that. But what I learned along the way is that these are things that are pretty typical of men. It wasn't just, there are things that are specific to my husband that you'll want to learn and make sure to remember for your special man as well. But I'm sharing a lot of basic things that you can use in your marriage and in your significant relationship to becoming a wifey, and also learning those nuances about your guy as well. So that's what this is about. And hopefully it doesn't take you 20 some years to figure these things out. I want you to have the shortcut. That's why I'm sharing these with you. So dressing for him, this is a topic that I'm actually going to cover over 2 days, because there is a stage of dating where I think if you grew up in a certain era, and I definitely grew up in this era, and I think it's still prevalent out there in our society, there's, if you're just a woman 40 years old or younger, even hearing the words dressing for him might just ruffle feathers. But if you get down to it, if you're looking for a man, if your goal is to marry a man, you of course are going to be out there dressing for him, dressing yourself to attract that man. And so what I want to bring up today is that, first of all, if we just think about clothing, now I'm not a fashionista. I'm pretty practical when it comes to clothing. And this is also where it's helpful. Going shopping with my husband, he actually doesn't mind it, but not shopping. I'm very pragmatic, so it's really pretty quick. But I love it when he goes with, because he's like, yep, nope, or he'll pull out stuff and he can just see what he would like to see on me. So it's really great for both of us, but that may not be you. But I'm saying that I'm not a fashionista because this is not coming from that kind of perspective. It's very pragmatic, and let's take this journey together. So first of all, just consider, what is clothing? Clothing is, at its very basic, just something that we wear to help us protect us from the elements, and also maybe kind of an energetic protector as well. Sometimes we even wear clothing that is not only attracting, like I'll get to later, but it also can sometimes say, this is how far you can go, sort of thing. It can really portray more than, well, it can just portray more. So for example, it can portray your inner archetypes. So who you are on the inside, we tend to portray on the outside through our clothing. That's one of the best ways that we can illustrate and kind of be who we are. I think we intuitively tap into that as we get old enough to be able to choose or buy our own clothing. It is a way of our inner archetypes, or our reflecting our inner self, right? Clothing can also convey our social status. And this can be helpful as well, of course, when you're dating, just to know what realm you're aiming. And that can be used in many ways, but that's not the point of this. I'm just going over a few things. It can also be an extension of a representation of your grooming habits. And so, of course, grooming is your hair, your skincare, your skin, as far as your makeup, nails, just even having like clean nails or trimmed nails, they don't even have to be done super elaborately or anything. It's another extension of how you take care of yourself. Do you have animals, and did you take the lint roller and roll your clothing? Without going off on too many tangents. And then lastly, of course, when we're talking about dating, it is your bait. And you might think of yourself as the bait, but really you're the prize. And this is what I really like to distinguish the difference between. You are the prize. The bait may be, first of all, your clothing. Because someone can spot you from quite a ways away, right? And so that is the initial bait. Before they could smell you, before they can really see you well, they're going to be attracted to your shape and your demeanor and so forth, in your gestures and what you're wearing. And this is something, thankfully, that when I was in my brief dating career, I intuitively sensed like you don't want to show it all. And I've since learned these things. Okay, make note, because this is really important, that only if you have men in your life that can or will share these things with you, might you learn these things. So first of all, believe it or not, men have X-ray vision. Okay, they can sense what your body looks like, even if you're wearing normal clothing. So what I mean is, you don't have to wear things that are skin tight, that actually may not flatter your body, for them to get an idea of what is in the package. Believe me, I'm not just being an older woman here. This is like tried and true. And I've heard this from so many guys, that if you leave something for the imagination, that is more attractive than if you're revealing it all. Know what parts of your body are good to highlight. So for example, for me, it was my waist. I would, have something that maybe fit a little bit more there. But the rest, nothing is extremely revealing. And it leaves something for them to imagine. And it also, especially if you're aiming to be, you want to be my wifey material, you want to give the message. And I wrote this down because I want it to be specific, that I've been preserving myself for the one. If you just want to attract any guy, wear the skimpy stuff, show it all. But if you want to be attractive as wifey material, you need to be very discerning in what and how much you show. There are a couple key things that you can do. Make sure you know your colors, and afterwards I'll put a link to my favorite kind of color matching wardrobe. It's super great. For me, like I said, I'm not a fashionista, so this really helps me to bring together. But if you have your right colors and you know the one or two things of your body to highlight without over accentuating. For example, if you have a beautiful bust, you can accentuate that without revealing everything. You can still have a neckline that is reasonable and without revealing a bunch of cleavage. And it will be appealing. It will be attractive to a man without being extremely revealing, especially if you find yourself attracting men that are just kind of use it and ditch it, and are not finding a man that wants to stick around and stay with you. Then you have to convey that you are the type of woman who is preserving yourself for the one, and that you value yourself in that way. And your clothing is the biggest, really the most emphasized way that you can do that. I cannot emphasize this enough. Your clothing says more and will be paid attention more than what you say sometimes. So if you're like, I've had a bunch of guys who just want to, have a good time and no one is sticking around or serious. Well, your clothing is going to say that more. And I'm not saying you have to dress in a straight jacket or a burqa, just something that's more conservative. Okay, this is going to be a 20-minute podcast if I don't keep moving. So men have X-ray vision. You don't have to reveal it all to give them a hint of what what they may be getting. And if we look at clothing, especially when you're dating, as the bait, what kind of bait is it? Now I realize I grew up fishing, and you chose a bait depending on what type of fish you want to catch and where you would go fishing and what time and so forth. Well, if you choose the wrong bait, you'll be attracting what you don't want to catch. And especially if, let's say, even just like my cat's walking through, so it gives me an example. Probably a lot of people know that cats react to catnip differently. Some totally chill, some get wild. And if your bait, as in this, your clothing, is saying, that wasn't a good example about the cats because they're going in either direction. What I'm saying is you want to be clear in the message that you're sending. If you're revealing it all, you're showing that you're not wifey material. You want to convey that I'm not here just for a one night good time. I'm looking for something long term. And like the saying goes, your actions will speak louder than your words. And the actions also include your clothing, and your gestures, of course. It's kind of extended in that way. Leave some room for the imagination. Leave the yoga pants at home. I love yoga pants also, but I've heard many guys say that it just reveals everything, doesn't leave anything to the imagination, and you want to keep them interested. Glad I didn't forget that point. You want to keep them interested. And if you're showing it all to them, you're not keeping their interest. Highlight your best features, like I had mentioned, if whether waist, bust, rear, but so it's the cut of the clothing and also the color. And I'll post a link below of my favorite way to discover what are the best colors for you. And then if you have your own style, but lean towards the feminine. In a previous podcast, I mentioned I had a wonderful host sister at my first host family in Brazil, and she gave me the blessing of saying, you walk like a man, and you're wearing skis. I was wearing Doc Martens. Those were the thing in the day. And I had Doc Marten sandals, which I assumed would just be in style all around the world. But she said, you walk like a man, and you look like you're wearing skis. And it was my first real realization into kind of that awareness. And so just having that awareness, definitely have your own style, again, because you want to convey, yes, your archetypes, who you are on the inside, but I would lean towards the feminine. And what I mean by that is you can never go wrong with dresses. Avoiding clunky shoes. That was my example of the Doc Martens back in the day. And an exception would be like cowboy boots or cowgirl boots. But just leaning towards the feminine that way. Definitely long hair. It's not something you wear, but it's actually something that you wear every day. Like I say to my hairstylist, which I'm sure she loves, I say, I totally, as far as like clothing and everything, I probably I don't spend a lot on clothing, but I spend more on my hair because it's something that I wear every day. And so longer hair can definitely, I would say past the shoulders, can go a long way also. Here's a little hint that something that I learned along the way is, and I think women can kind of intuit this as well, is not all the time, but if sometimes you wear something that's slightly costumey. And what I mean is that it gives more of a hint of kind of a character. So a good one would be like a cowgirl, not like, it doesn't have to be the entire outfit, but I know my husband really likes, like I wear my cowgirl hat, or I might be wearing boots with, some nice jeans. It doesn't have to be the whole ensemble, but it kind of is like a cute costume, but you don't have to go overboard. Another example would be like a plaid skirt. And so that kind of schoolgirl look it seems like always attractive. And it doesn't have to be totally made up that way. I remember my husband still remembers that outfit that I wore on a couple of occasions. And it was it was actually a skirt. And it wasn't even like overtly plaid. It was very light colors, but he remembered it. And what I didn't realize at the time that I've realized since is that it was slightly costumey. It kind of had that slight schoolgirl kind of look. And you're going to find something, your own style will be what attracts that guy, your special guy, to you. So do convey your own style. And these are fun ways to do it. A couple other ideas would be a feminine retro. That's kind of costumey. So maybe you go 70s-ish and it's just a little retro. Definitely 40s, 50s definitely has more of a feminine vibe. And so that can be really fun too. And again, it's not like you're going to a Halloween party. You're just bringing in certain elements that are feminine and fun. It conveys fun. And then, of course, bring in your own style. It's also really important to make sure you feel comfortable. If you feel awkward in your own clothing, it's going to come out. And it is very important that you do feel comfortable and that you're conveying your own sense of self as well. Of course, I titled this Dress for Him, but you have to be genuine. That's the biggest part of it. It has to be something that really is genuine and feels comfortable to you. More is more. So I think we've already covered this enough. It's not that less is more. Definitely showing that if you want to convey that you are preserving yourself and the best of you for your man, your future man, that also needs to be conveyed in your clothing. If it looks like you've been sharing it with everyone, that's what will be perceived. And that was really that's really the clincher. Is what you wear conveys so much. It conveys your how you feel about yourself, what your archetypes are like. And believe it or not, your archetypes kind of subconsciously communicate to each other, and you gather through even what he's wearing. Your archetypes are kind of conversing and going, is this a match here? And so you absolutely do want and need to dress for yourself and conveying yourself through your clothing, but also keeping in mind, how does a guy tend to see things or react? So tomorrow I'll get into dressing for him, your husband, and all this dating advice can always, or pretty much always, apply to your married life as well, because a lot of married life is also about keeping up that dating experience, that dating vibe, those things that you did while you were dating. And so maybe you have that special outfit. I wish I still had that skirt. I should have kept that skirt. Just came to mind. But I have similar skirts, well, different but similar, like, to maybe just even that memory of what attracted him. What was the outfit that attracted him? And maybe find something similar to that and surprise him. So I'm already getting ahead of myself into dressing for him and marriage, but it'll give you a clue as to what's to come. But you can almost always use the dating advice into your marriage to help keep things fired up and going and fun. So did anyone come to mind when you were listening to this? Hopefully not something that you're trying to chastise them about, but maybe reinforcement, hopefully. What are your thoughts? Did this work for you? Maybe in previous experience as well. It definitely, dressing more provocatively is going to get the man's attention. But if you want to keep his attention long term, you have to leave something for the imagination. They want you to reveal it all, to do it all right away, but you are the gatekeeper. This is definitely where you have to have respect for yourself, and how you dress will definitely convey that. So make sure to like, subscribe, share this with someone who came to mind, and let me know your thoughts and experiences. Again, tomorrow we'll talk about dressing for him in marriage, and have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye-bye.